housewarming party in sometime last autumn.
Sorry, is your voice loud enough?
Yep, it should
And
be fine.
okay, and now the second session is about social learning. But before we begin, I'd like to give the floor to Pauliina for kindly letting us use your premises for the event.
Okay. Should I come here too, so the
Yeah, please.
online participants can always see me?
Yes.
Should I sit down too? All right.
Yeah, that should be good.
Nice evening to everybody too. I'm Pauliina and I'm from Soprano Group. And who are in here, you are in our premises, so our Tönölahti campus. And we did move here last August, and they did follow us up a couple months behind. Clanet, and we are training working professionals in here in our premises, and that's what our whole group is doing. For Finnish people, I think the Soprano might not say anything, but our business school might say. So GTO, Johtamistaidon-opisto, Infor, Fintra, and then Tieturi as ICT trainer, and I'm director in that area, ICT trainings in this group. So I'm leading our Informato Tieturi group, so unit in here in Finland in Tieturi brand, and then the Informato in Swedish side. And we did last year, we had participants or students, you could say, about 25,000, and we are expecting that over 10,000 participants will be in these premises during this year. So quite a lot of people going and doing the working hours in here. And we are so happy now that we have cooperation with Clanet and also can provide social learning experience to the participant and not only this traditional classroom training. So we are moving the blended learning and online also and have done that it's several years, but let's hope that that's getting more and more popular. But that's for us in a Soprano Group, and if you have any questions or related, you can contact me. You find my Pauliina Lautanen Nissi, and it's the name, so I think that's the quite unique name, so you will find me and my contact information, of course. You are in here, we can talk in our breaks. And now for the agenda.
Thanks, Pauliina. Yeah, so my name is Topi Litmanen. I work at Clanet as the chief educational scientist, mostly taking care of the learning side of things, helping our customers to do their online learning. And the way we'll structure the work this afternoon, evening, or depending on for the online participants wherever they might be joining us, their time of day for the next hour and a half or so is a short intro to the topic, and then diving into concrete solutions using a method called double diamond, um, widely used design method for brainstorming first problems and then solutions to those problems. And the topic social learning, we've chose the term social to kind of cover as many topics in learning as possible. I mean, you could, depending on where you come from, you might be referring to cooperative learning, collaborative learning, but generally we don't want to exclude anything, just like things that we do together with other learners to either share our opinions and knowledge, or create something, new solutions or views to a topic. Before we dive into the actual subject, I'd like all of us to introduce ourselves. And the way we're going to do this is who you are, where you're from, and one thing that you've learned during the last week. Or if it's too hard, then extend the time to a period that you find comfortable. so that you can come up with a thing that you've learned. And I will start things out. So I'm Topi from Clannad, and the thing that I've learned during the past week is how to interact with other drivers in busy cities in Italy. So I was driving a lot during the last week in Italy, and they were using their voice signals or honks a lot less during the end of the period in the beginning when I started doing it. So concrete feedback and quick learning there. Who wants to go next? Let's start with Teemu.
Yes. Hi everyone, my name is Teemu and I'm here in Clannad as a customer success manager and today in charge of the live stream part, which will be available later on, as well as with the material stuff. And the thing I've learned past week was more SQL queries for my work. How to get stuff out of the database, to take a proper look at it and maybe do some science on that. Okay, then.
Sure. Hi everyone, I'm Solia. I'm the customer experience manager in Clannad, and what I learned last week was to play a new song with the piano. I'm very proud of it. I don't play the piano otherwise.
Hi, I am Sarianna. I'm a graphic designer, and I actually learned about this whole streaming thing and what is needed for it, new softwares to use.
Hello everyone, I'm Berit, I'm from Clannad, and I learned last week how to adapt some of my earlier industrial learnings from shipping into education. And we utilized some methods of matching certain skill levels and aligning them and realizing that we were talking all around the table about the same thing, regardless what industry we're coming from. And that was very, very enlightening.
Hello, I'm Andrea Arditola. I come from Aalto Executive Education. I work there as digital learning specialist, and in the past few weeks I have been working a lot with doing videos, and every day I learn something new about After Effects and Premiere, so it's a very long learning process that I've been doing for about 2 years, but it's always something new.
Okay, my name is Hanne. I have my own company and I have it here in Helsinki, one-person company with some help of others. And last week I learned in ITK conference in Hämeenlinna that there is really concrete things happening in e-learning. It's not only talk anymore, but really nice to see what the schools are doing pedagogically and so on. So that's what I learned.
Yeah, I'm Tiina Kahja. I work part-time as an IT consultant and I just finished my studies at Aalto School of Science. And well, one thing I learned was like expanding knowledge management into knowledge leadership.
Wow.
Well, details about that.
Nice.
What I have learned.
Yeah, Pauliina.
Yeah. I think that I go to the technical side this time because everyone else took it. So I have learned a lot more about Active Directory and how it handles our usernames and that kind of things in cooperation with the whole Sopran group. So it's technical side of my work.
Nice. I think all the Clannad people went for more of the like informal learning, and then we had some more professional views. Thank you for those. Yeah. So I guess in terms of social learning, we are coming across with many things that our customers or people somehow approaching us interested in our products, our services, are wanting to use social learning for something. And it's actually gathering quite a lot of interest, and depending on the kind of the segment that people are in the industry, the needs are different, although there are a lot of similarities. So if we're talking about higher education, it's usually them wanting to build more engagement among the students, working with real life problems instead of just textbook knowledge. If we're talking about online courses that for example, Aalto is offering, it's about providing a better experience for the students, for them being able to share their knowledge, getting views from other participants, creates engagement, creates a sense of community to the courses. If we're talking about organizational learning, it's usually about we have all this organizational knowledge, or the people already have the knowledge. They're using their mobile phones, smart devices to document their life outside their work. So how can we use those practices on an online platform to create shared knowledge, to build or produce online learning programs from the things that they are already doing in their work, how to explicate the tacit knowledge, how to use the different kinds of approaches to learning organizations. But I would be really eager to hear about your dreams or needs for social learning. What kinds of themes or phenomena would you want to engage people around in social learning? Are there any things? It's a difficult question.
Yes. It's afternoon, or it is evening, or
All right. All right. Yeah.
I think that Aalto executive education, the dream is to achieve like this virtual classroom experience.
Right.
Not necessarily transferring like making people feel like they are in a classroom, but really having them feel like they are joining a learning space,
Yeah.
and they can see the other participants, they understand who else is there, and they can use the other participants as well, and also like the knowledge is there and is created both together and with others. So there's a very big part about how to create that sort of engagement, but also how to build the infrastructure for that.
Yeah, yeah. And if I think whenever I visit your premises in Töölö or Kamppi in Helsinki, it's really strong experience to see all the art surrounding, and all the spaces are designed, physical spaces are designed to bring people together, to provide them things to talk about while they are walking the hallways, and even in the classrooms there's like huge paintings there. So you really paid a lot of attention into building the kinds of social interactions on site.
On site, and
Yeah.
it's harder to transfer, and
It is.
we're learning, of course, because it's not so clear cut as having a beautiful location and having the learning spaces. It's easier to build to some extent than knowing how to create this online spaces that people will feel engaged and also open enough to share with others about their learning experience.
Yeah. So you say it's harder, but then again we hear this rant that people are not being social in real life. They're only social in social media and using sharing.
That's not really socialization, I don't believe. It provides another sense of community, I think, and the plan is never to give up the classroom training, but how to use the online part to enrich the classroom experience, and never to feel like it is lesser, because it still feels for many people that if you're taking something virtually, it's lesser than coming to the classroom.
True.
And we want to have them feel that it's for different purposes, but it is also a very interesting experience.
Yeah. So bringing the social element of online to support the physical one. Anything else?
Yeah, I approach the idea from the like community of practice
Yep.
point of view, so that people won't get online if they don't feel there's a community. So it needs to be part of this like learning approach too. That it's not only I'm learning, but there's a community I join to learn.
Right, right. Yeah. And especially in a community of practice, there needs to be like a shared understanding that or conception that I'm giving something to the community and getting something back. So it's it works both ways.
Yeah, so that you cannot be like outsider learner, but you have to be a part of it, like
Yeah.
engage
Yeah.
part of the community.
Mm.
I actually have a dream about something of an organization I sort of work for in my free time that relates to mentoring of young people. And there seems to be a lot of willingness when it comes to getting the mentors in. They are super duper knowledgeable leaders and managers, etc. And they think that because they are old and experienced, they are brilliant mentors. And at that point, then we get the actors in and they are expecting the mentoring process, the mentoring capabilities coming through these wonderful leaders that they are now meeting up. And my dream is that it would be wonderful to be able to somehow connect these mentors with each other and be able to support them through this like a social learning process that is not demeaning or putting them into different skills levels, but they can share how it is, how does it feel to be a mentor, and then hence being able to provide a more quality mentoring process and experience to the actors. Because I don't believe that you just say like, look, read this course and become better mentor, but if they can share that experience, I believe it's more beneficial and more engaging for all these quite substantially experienced people who think that because they are experienced, they can do this job. So fingers crossed, hopefully we can get this going.
Yeah, I think like generally building a community around a shared goal, a shared topic is what we are aiming at in many of the cases, be it a specific program or a shared interest or um, like a professional topic. Um, yeah.
Yes, I have a couple comments from the online participants. One from Matteo is that he would like to be able to connect more seamlessly the learning done on learning platforms like Clannad with the actual on-the-job activities. And he further clarified that when he was visiting a repair shop, there was most like stuff being done on the shop that is very close to learning, but it wasn't like facilitated in any ways. So to actually get the learning to involve more of the doing part also, so that the online part wouldn't feel so separate. And another comment would be from Henna, that people would be active, share experiences, and really discuss so that they would learn from each other.
Yeah. 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 So I think.
Yeah, one comment. Something I hear a lot is especially when we talk about organizations and companies that they want to bring out the tacit knowledge they have within the company, and that seems to be difficult. How to encourage people to, well, how to help them to identify first what they know, and then share it with others, and that's something people are looking after quite often.
Yeah.
But still seems to be difficult in online environments. Easier to bring people together and start somehow facilitating the discussion and bringing out the knowledge. But in online environments, it's still kind of like, where should I start? What should I do?
Yes, so I think that we're using like these terms of facilitation, community building, different kinds of approaches. I think that what we are mainly what the concepts that I usually work with are either designing kind of motivational hooks, like how do we motivate people to take part? What kind of things can we kind of leverage or pull, or on the other hand, how do we design a course or a program so that it takes you from kind of builds the online interaction in steps. So you cannot expect people to jump in straight to the deep end, but instead you have to kind of design the steps so that they are taken there in a safe manner and kind of step by step, kind of building from logging into the system to getting to the more challenging topics. And one thing that we usually come across with in online interaction is to what extent there's social presence. To what extent I actually feel that the other person is a real person and actually they're writing as a instead of just a void that I'm shouting into. And I think that most of you can probably pick randomly any newspaper and go there in the discussion topic and see what kind of constructive discussion takes place on there. So there's not a lot, and largely the issue is that we don't feel that the other people are real people because we don't see them. It's just you're shouting and they're shouting, and there's not too much constructive discussion going on. So two motivational aspects that or tools, opposite sides of the spectrum that we have that we can use. We can either kind of use the carrot and a stick, rewards and punishments. I don't know how much punishments you want to use in building collaboration, but or on the other hand, you can use the intrinsic motivation that people have for showing what they already know and taking the lead in their self-development. So on the encouragement side, what you want to do is use the three motivational aspects of self-determination, really. The key things to know in motivation is that we want to feel competent. If you make your participants feel competent, that they can display the knowledge that they already have, that they are related to a group, not just giving away, but rather getting something there themselves, and that they have autonomy over deciding what they get to do, how they want to accomplish the tasks, and so on. So you want to provide them opportunities to show how competent, what they already know, that they relate to a group, and that they are autonomous participants. And on the other hand, you want to take down the possible negative barriers that they not necessarily experience, but that they are afraid of. They don't know the practical norms. At least some are. Even if they are used to discussing online, they're not probably used to taking part in online learning discussions. So there's fear of criticism, not knowing the conceptions or norms, practical barriers, probably negative social phenomena might be going on as well. That being said, we have little or no experience in this because in our platform, people are present with their own identity, with their work identity, with their own face, with their own name. So it takes away a lot of the unfortunate aspects of that you might see in other places of the web. And actually, as I said, you don't want the participants to dive into the deep end. Rather, you want to somehow guide their way through the program or course. And this is a model by Gilly Salmon. I think it's almost 20 years old already, but still very applicable into how you want to design the process of taking the participants through their course. So the first thing we might be tempted to start out with the actual social interaction and them discussing and changing information, but there are these practical things of how do I access the platform, what do I do here, how do I use the tools. So I've written with caps locks the things that the instructor does. So the first thing is to welcome them, to motivate them. So this is how you log in, this is how you create your profile, this is how you introduce yourself, upload a profile picture, make the platform look like your own. And after that, we start interacting with the tools, interacting with other participants, actually getting a feel of making comments, maybe doing an introduction round, similar things that we would do in a classroom situation. Use the tools on the platform to get familiar with studying on a specific environment. And after that, you can lead them to actually diving into the content that you are providing them and exchanging information, discussing about the topics, and then kind of building from there to knowledge construction, then providing solutions to maybe a given problem, building community, constructing, perhaps doing small groups, facilitated small groups for sharing their products, and then in the end going on to the development phase of them sharing their products and getting feedback. And actually, if you think about the highest level of interaction takes place here. So before the steps 1 and 2 in this model would be just constructing the necessary elements and walking the participants through. And I would guess that the biggest mistakes they are that if you try to jump ahead the preliminary stages and dive into the deep end before your participants are actually familiarized or have a sense of community online. Any thoughts, any questions about this before we dive into the actual working phase?
I think one important thing that keeps coming up, at least where I work, is that you have to provide the technical support. Also, like it not just do the steps like in a meta way, but also like for each step of the process provide the article or guidebook or video, a way that they can, they're not there to learn your platform, they're there to learn something on the topic they're interested in. So it is within the responsibility of the person who is delivering to also make sure that everything that they need about learning the platform is there, and they're also there for technical support.
Yeah, true. Because if there is no technical support, then your users are felt left stupid, and you want to make them feel smart.
Or they get frustrated and they don't want to come to the platform at all. And they send emails. Like that's what often happens in our company.
Sole, do you want to continue off with the...
Sure. Yeah, the actual working part.
Yeah.
So we in Clannad, we actually like to do things and not only listen to someone else talking the whole session. So also today we have, or you can see the canvas, probably quite familiar to you. It's called Double Diamond, and I think now you could all create one group, and then Teemu is facilitating the online group, and we start actually thinking what are the major problems in regarding social learning in online environments, and then you will produce the solutions for those challenges as well. But the first thing to do is to actually put some tables together and move. Okay.
will one
So that you
table
can
be
actually,
enough?
you're able
Is
to
there one
discuss
group or one
Yeah,
group?
just do
Yes.
one group.
Let's
Okay.
do one group.
Think.
Do we need 2 tables? Or
I
something?
think one table is enough. One table.
Yeah. Just put chairs around.
Yeah. And if I can get the, was there a Padlet platform?
Just a second.
Possible to get it as well. I think Teemu has it there already. So this is like a mini hackathon almost. We're doing this in just 45 minutes, more or less. And how this actually works is that you'll first get to brainstorm individually, just in your own head, and please use the post-its to write down all ideas that come to your mind. You've got 5 minutes for this, and after that you get to share all your ideas with your team, and also Teemu's facilitating this online as we go as well. After that, now we're thinking about the problems, all the possible problems you come up with relating to social interaction in online learning environments. After that, we'll move on to the solution phase, as you can see from the canvas, and then you'll brainstorm about that, and then you will come with one single solution that you feel is the best and most accurate for that problem. But please go ahead, 5 minutes to brainstorm just on your own. Couple more minutes left. Just take your time. And I think we've got time to go through all of the problems together, as well as the online participants' problems too. One more minute. Keep going. Okay. Let's see. Some writing's going on. Great, great job. First phase done. We took out this, what's this called? These bigger papers because we saw that you've got so many post-its actually. If you want, you can just post them here, but please present your problem to the team and to the online participants as well. And after that, let's share the online participants' problems too. But you can post your post-its here. And I'm not sure if it's easier to gather around this actually to view all of them. But take one at a time, and if you feel like you need to clarify something, please go ahead. I see you're quite ready, so come on up.
Do we go like one by one, or
Yes.
like one person or one
Well,
post-it?
let's do one person
Okay.
and one
Yeah,
post-it.
Okay. So first I thought about technical tools. If they are too difficult to use, no one is going to use them. Then some of these are like related. But knowing the other participants, then if you don't know them, then you're feeling insecure, and then you don't feel psychologically safe, and you are afraid to like present your opinions. Then there's this lack of own motivation. If you just don't care enough, then you won't take the time. And then somewhere here in between, if you feel that there's nobody else out there, you just don't want to.
Screaming into the void.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Those were mine.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good structuring as well.
Thanks.
Andrea.
Yeah, I think, well, some are in common. One is that the individual feels like they're on their own because there's the big distance feel when there's no personal connection. Then the learning methods that are used in the course are not interactive or are not encouraging cooperation. So people don't get the cues. And then they don't feel motivated to share or don't see the benefits of sharing. Sometimes it can be that there are too many participants to actually have a discussion. So people, maybe they go and see what has already been said, but they don't reply in any way because there's too many comments. Though that's a good problem to have. Another thing that happens very often is that the instructor is not facilitating in any way, so it's less likely to happen. Then, of course, technical difficulties and limitations as well. Like there are certain things that the platform you're using just can't do. So that was.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, mine is so.
you leave this one purposely behind?
It was the title for the
Okay.
discussion. I tried to focus on that. Yeah. Well, I have very much about the time used together, the platform time. I don't know how to put it here. Which one did I take? Yeah, I see time as the boundary, I think. So I think it's in the middle. It doesn't matter what, but the time used here. So I was thinking, at least from my point of view, that first thing, of course, is this how to engage and activate the participants. I think it goes that direction. But then I think there is this huge problem from my experience. What is the relationship between content, knowledge creation, and messaging? And I think that is one of the major lacks. Something is missing all the time from each platform, which I know, understand.
Yeah.
So they are like, I think they are like layers, and they are not transparent. I mean, they are like in layers, and in which layer do you look at when you meet this? And I think this is also the psychological question that the people don't find them so familiar as in this kind of situations. We can always look at the things, and then also these are also about the time, that it's about leading. Who leads the thing? Who's leading it? Who is managing it? And then the big question, it was like, that's why I had the topic, the social interaction. Why social interaction is my question. Why do we need it? And of course, then it goes to that direction. It goes, I think, more that way. Then comes this, because the layers are so difficult to see, and where are the messages, as I do a lot of this facilitating work. So how could this data be filtered somehow easier? It could be easier to see what's happening on those places. I think it comes to the analytics somehow, but I don't know what kind of analytics. Is it the technology then?
Okay. Well, thank you. It's easier now to follow up because all the smart ideas are already up there. But I try to dabble in few things. First of all, I want to take on the technical side. Still, very often, which is simply we are not very trusting in the eyes of sort of data privacy and securities, etc. There can be an underlying feeling that when I'm not, seeing you right here, there's a little bit of fear, perhaps. Technically, also different levels of skills in digital environments, and also just fears in showing in this is actually something different. Sorry, I jump over to something else. Fears in showing incompetent, that I come through as incompetent, and I actually put through these two languages differentiator. We don't have necessarily a common language to start with, unless we've done the introductory part really well, so we know exactly what common expressions are we supposed to be using, and also expressions as such. This is a little bit of, I actually mean two different things in terms of linguistically. So perhaps we are not using our first language, and we are using expressions wrongly and get interpreted in a wrong way. So that can stop me talking because I'm not quite certain that I'll be understood in the right way. But then cultural differences in sharing thoughts, also situational differences, how we react. They're a little bit of where we come from, etc., etc. But also something I've noticed by sort of leading few similar sort of examples online is that there's always the effect of noise versus thinking, and there's always those who are very quick to react, very quick to engage, too quick there, versus those who want to think. They want to contemplate, they want to kind of take the backstage and instead of just rushing into it, and sometimes, particularly when you have not your first language as the participating language, you might be still thinking about what you want to say correctly before you actually drive through. So I'm just putting that a little bit there as a thought pattern. But then simply, what is the motivational engagement of each of us at any given point? There can be somebody who's just come into the situation after a bad day, or I'm just not ready for this right away. I have short of time. If it's an engagement sort of at that moment, so it could be a time-related challenge, little bit of how we connect through different tools, and just simply what are the differences in believing social learning method, and then that was actually the same one. I'm just feeling incompetent. So some thoughts.
Thank you. Teemu, do you want to go over the online participants'
Yes.
problems?
Yeah, let's take a look at the ones listed here. So, is it scrolled all the way to the top? Yes, I think. So I will take a look from here also to make sure. Yeah. The first problem listed there in the actual top is that participants are afraid to start discussions. That was brought up there in the Padlet. Also, that participants are motivated to participate and learn in live events rather than online. Only some are taking part and others are silent. So in a way that the workload or interaction is not split equally. Some will be more active and some people will be more quiet during the online course. Online learning might feel less important than classroom learning. Not enough technical skills, so the learning will suffer for that reason. Participants are not clear on how to perform certain activities online, contribute in discussions, post personal experience, give feedback to colleagues. Interaction is not rewarded. Trouble to remember where you participated online and how to come back to that conversation. Also misunderstandings listed here as well. Learning online is less structured time-wise, so no need to contribute in a specific moment, which I think is a very good point to make. Not everybody is learning at the same time. Some people are doing their homework at night, some are doing those in the morning, and yet we should be interacting there. Lack of motivation to really share opinions and thoughts. Didactics is based on classroom teaching. Learning online given is not formally scheduled, is more often recognized as more work to be done rather than participating to something for the personal growth. And last, not creating real relationships with the people, how to feel related to others. So these were all brought up by the online participants, and they had these things to share with you.
Was there any additional discussion in the chat? Or?
No, just listed there.
So we can already tell that there are similarities with what you actually wrote down to the post-its and what the online participants said related to the technical skills, the tools, time, didactics was one, why or how or when to comment and not and so forth. And it's really good to start identifying these similarities because it's easier to actually start focusing on solving them. But now I'd like you to to take a look, another look at the post-its, and the online participants to take a look at their problems. Try to kind of read them through again, and in your mind think the problem is that, and then read the post-it or the answer, so you can actually you're able to form the real problem. Now there are ideas what is not necessarily working, and we want to create or transform those ideas into kind of problem statements. And then you have 5 votes each one of you, and just make a little mark on a post-it if you think, or to those post-its you think are the kind of most crucial problems that need to be solved first. So 5 votes, and then in the online participants, you can just vote by giving hearts.
Yes.
And for this, I give you 10 to 15 minutes. Let's see how quick you are. But I suggest you basically stand up and just go closer to the post-its to
So we
read them
also
through.
write the problem statements? Or
Just think it through in your head while you read through the post-its.
Yeah.
Just think through. The problem is that.
Do we do hearts or stars or?
Or just tukkimiehen kirjanpito, or as you
And
wish.
what was the question? Was it about the social interaction problems, or because these are
No.
very much about platform?
Yes,
or
about those.
education
Yes.
problems.
Which of those problems should be solved first to support the online interaction? And so that you are able to actually go through all of them might be easier if you come closer, a bit closer.
I'm gonna do a heart. There's one heart. Good at the yellow ones. Oh, probably when you want, 2 hearts, so I need to give 3 else hearts to keep it be socially engaging and,
You're facilitating.
I suppose. Oh, just come on. Three votes?
You can give 5 actually at this
okay.
point.
Okay. Can one vote oneself?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you have formulated it
If
the
that
best
is
way.
the problem to be solved, then. You can also just ask if you can remember what was the idea
Sure.
behind
Yeah.
someone else's thought.
It was actually helpful to go through that 5-stage model, because kind of my thinking went through what are the obstacles that something cannot go forward and cannot go forward, and it's a quite clear process to think through. So that's why I wanted to give more hearts than there's just 3.
Are the online participants doing? Do you think they're
Yes.
ready?
There's voting going on.
I
I
think
don't have the focus already what we are doing.
as soon as the voting starts quieting down, you can start moving the
Yeah, but
cards to the define
How many
section.
cards?
The ones
Does that
that have
mean
the most
cooperative,
most of
meaning
the votes. I think there
engaging?
were
So it's
some
the-
that
Like
had
collaborative, like
Collaborative.
I think
yeah,
was it so?
yeah,
Yeah, like
that's
so
what
that
I meant.
they can be done like individually, so
Yes.
there's no need to collaborate.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Gotcha.
it's not within the task, let's
Yeah.
say.
If it's like just like write an assignment, then
Yeah,
nobody's
great.
going to
Yeah,
like,
or watch this
Exactly.
video. Like
yeah,
That's true.
yeah, that's true.
Also for you guys, when you've marked your favorites, just see which of the post-its got most hearts or stars or votes, and you can move them back here to this table, to the define section, and then you should, by discussion, kind of decide just one of them.
you want to create a solution to.
Okay.
We'll definitely have that one.
Yeah.
Yep, we're not feeling motivated to share. What else do we have?
That's still
Yep,
some that
yes.
are like talking about the same thing.
Which one?
Like this is the same as.
Yes,
The
yeah.
motivation to time to, yeah.
Are you able to combine?
Yeah. I don't know if I put it on the right.
I don't remember how many parts actually. But I have to.
Do we have that one yet? Because I think the safety issue came through in quite many ways as well.
Yeah, this is.
Let's take.
This.
It is the same.
It's the same.
Yeah, same. We have the
I think this
language.
was interesting.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take that one as well. I see that there are 2 stars, 2 stars.
Okay.
So we can add them.
I think the 2-star ones are.
Did you all give 5 votes now?
I have given 5. I'm
Yeah.
quite sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or all the votes you want to give?
Yeah.
There.
So,
Excellent. Okay. Now you can take a seat, and now you should come to a conclusion. Which one of these is the one you want to start actually creating a solution to? And same thing for the online participants. I see that you've got 2 problems with 4 votes, and now you should decide which one of those is the one to start.
These,
Do you want to
so
start
it's like
solving?
one. So this is maybe the same. So we've got like 3 problems.
don't feel motivated to share, doesn't see benefit. Is that a little bit the same, like a motivation to take time to engage?
Yeah, because then.
And that's one as well. Okay. All right.
Well, maybe it's a bit different.
And now be careful.
Psychological safety and then the like the benefits. Maybe it's a bit different.
True.
Also, lack of motivation and time could be seen as 2 separate things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is
it's
lack of
easy to
motivation due to having
lump things
only a
together.
little bit
Like
of time?
I
But
see
it's like-
this like one side is the motivation of the participants, and on the other hand is like how do we build the engagement to motivate? It comes from the instructor, from using easy language and making sure we all understand the same things in the same way, being approachable. So it is like from both sides, but there are a lot of actions that go in there and different types of like deliverables.
And usually the most difficult task is to narrow it down to a very specific one single problem and try to then forget about all the other problems around it, even though related to it. But so that we're able to create an effective solution, we have to be careful. And
Personally, I'm kind of I'm hugely interested in this particular factor, the psychological safety, because it applies to so many different situational circumstances as well, and particularly online community. Because how do we actually define this, and how do we provide almost? I'm thinking it through a sandbox, so a child feels safe to play in a sandbox because I understand the borders. I understand within which sort of borders are we playing safe. So how do we do that? I'm asking because I think it's quite challenging, because then online community is very different than us here signing NDAs and kind of sharing like, okay, these are the rules, right? Okay, are we all happy? And we are expressing ourselves personally, but how do you do that online?
I think like one of the main things is because you go to the sandbox as a kid because you see other kids playing, or you see your parent go like, come here. It's leading by example, like the instructor starts the discussion and always ask questions, don't give tasks, like and follow it up with your own example, your own story, or a story you've heard, or a video on YouTube that exemplifies your story, that actually makes people eager to share.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. I see the thinking is already starting regarding the solutions. Now try to focus on which one of those is the problem you want to now crack, and then just select that one and then write it open as the problem is that and one of those.
and that's what you will continue working on with. It does not mean that all the other problems are less significant, but it does mean that we will start focusing on that one single problem.
Well, shall we make this a question if it's a problem? Or,
It's a bigger project.
yeah, because when you're talking about this and you're explaining that it's not only about children, but it's about rules and boundaries.
Yes.
So boundaries help everybody to be with. So
Absolutely.
one thing could be that how could we, what kind of boundaries should be built so that everybody feels okay. It's about this, this, and this.
Yes.
It's about everything.
Well, maybe
So-
that is the problem, you know,
Yeah.
by kind of acknowledging these areas of challenge, we actually define a problem, somehow combining these all. Could that be a solution?
Yeah, because
it's too broad a question.
It is very broad. Like, how do you build motivation? Well,
Yeah.
every HR department has been asking that for 50
And then
years.
turning that around.
But when you think about this lack of motivation, they
Yes.
take, engage, that's totally in a totally wrong way to say how to engage to gain motivation, because it comes through that, it doesn't come through
Yeah, how
motivation.
to
doesn't.
build engagement.
Yeah.
So that
So
How to
people-
activate and
So when we
engage.
think about this at this point through the problem question, the problem would be that the instructors don't know how to engage
Yes,
learners.
I think,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that you were playing around with different concepts. Anne mentioned borders. Other would be like structure. What is the like one central concept? Because if as you said, if you go for building engagement, that's too vague.
Yeah.
I mean, is it structure? Is it boundaries? Is it facilitation?
But the question how to engage is a good problem, because it can give you answers, boundaries, time, structure, schedules, assignments, whatever.
We can actually start then narrowing down once you brainstorm all these different ideas, then we can select the one. And I think we're also
I think
yes,
like
time is almost up. So
within the structure of whatever you created as a learning experience, and it should be something that is done intentional from the beginning with a pedagogical purpose. So it's like, maybe for me, like most interesting is structure at the moment. Like, how do you build the structure to your learning experience that has inbuilt engagement in it?
What do you mean that? Did you mean learning experience, or did you mean like learning process? Structure for the
learning process. Yes.
Because experience comes afterwards, I think.
Yeah, but you're like trying to create like certain.
So now I ask you to write it down in the problem form. Again, the problem is that on a paper or on this black paper, either or. Just start trying out which one kind of so you can all agree on.
But now we shifted away from the psychological safety to the engagement. It's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's challenges in all areas, but so we just want to pick up one problem. The problem is that.
Well, then what aspects or what different aspects engage people to feel safe and be motivated?
Yeah,
I mean, that is more because
Those are the end results of being
because
engaged.
when you open the elements which affect us.
Yes.
Now, when you're thinking about the problem, is the problem that the instructors don't know how to facilitate and make the learners engaged? Is the material too boring? What is it? Kind of try to focus on that. The problem is that the material is not engaging. The problem is that the facilitator is not skillful enough.
That's a detail.
And,
because
but
in
which
the bigger picture, it was more the structure.
And now we're focusing on the detail.
It's more the pedagogical structure, I think, or something that.
The pedagogical structure is not engaging. Okay. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think too we should
Of
like the idea of engagement is too broad if we try to find solutions, because then we should pick back like thousands of solutions. So it should be concentrated on like the structure of the course, how you build the course so that there's like step-by-step learning, or how do you facilitate the different steps to let the people collaborate and interact with each other. You just have to pick one. Like you said that you'd like the structure most. It's okay for me because
Structure is fine, yeah.
Yep.
Like the base of everything.
So
Yeah.
it's this like how to structure the learning process for collaboration.
And then the problem is that the structure is unclear. Or
Structure is not supporting the social learning, collaborative learning. Yeah, could that be? The structure is not supporting collaborative learning.
And I'll do it this way.
Okay.
Without thinking about the other alternatives.
Which you probably won't.
yeah.
You could create a lot more, don't worry.
Yeah. And you could spend so many hours on thinking about these things.
And you
then
come up with the
I'm
solution.
forcing you to kind of stop thinking and just focus on one.
All right.
All right.
Yeah. So it's here.
Very great. This is excellent. So now the next, how are the online participants doing? Are they waiting for us
Yes, we're
to
waiting
move
for
on?
you.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. And I see that you're in the development phase already actually. So now it's the time for brainstorm again. First individually for 5 minutes. All the possible solutions to make or solve this particular problem so that the structure would support collaborative learning. And think about different stakeholder groups. Is the solution for educators? Is it for the learners? The content creators? Who is the solution for? They can have different stakeholder groups. And as many ideas as you come up with, and the purpose is not to explain what the structure is. The problem is to create a solution how to help the instructor to create the perfect structure. And typically in hackathons, you try to come up with very innovative ways of or solutions. So just saying that we'll organize a training might not be the most innovative solution. So try to think out of the box. Who knows, maybe you come up with a company once you crack this problem.
Aren't you already doing it?
We're doing part of it, yes. more minutes. One more minute. Now you have just enough time to finish what you started. Something going on online. And then we'll do the same thing. Share all your solution ideas together with your team. Vote for your favorites, and then select one solution. There's still some solution idea coming from Beat, I see. All right, go ahead. Who wants to go first? Is it easier to have them on the board or on the table? What do you think?
Maybe it's too many for the paper.
Yeah.
Probably.
Put them in the same place. Yeah. Same order or
I go.
yeah.
Just I didn't get so many ideas. Like you said, the training is not so enough new idea. But I started with just pedagogical training for the teachers. Noticed in the like traditional uni as well that there are teachers who just don't care about the pedagogics and those courses suck. And then there's teachers who care, and then you learn so much and you enjoy. There's also just more time for the instructor, for the to structure and to facilitate. Sometimes at least the professors are so busy in researching that they don't care about teaching. So there should be some incentive for them to think about how to teach. And then I have some just ideas, like not just pedagogics, but like social psychology, just to be involved because they know how people interact and collaborate. They've got great ideas, and then service designers, user experience experts, because they too know how to design the process so that people get engaged. And then this is something quite vague, that like you should build communities into the structure so that people sort of automatically end up in some community. But it means that you just make small groups out of them and say that you are in this sandbox and you discuss and then they just end up in the community without realizing it.
Thank you. And I'm glad you didn't give up with the training. You still might have an innovative solution how to organize the training.
Yeah.
Okay, I have everything on my I'm not very good at this problem solving. I do it every day, so it's like my job. That's right. I think about. I was thinking about the structure. There has to be elements for everybody and shared idea how to make it good. And we know from learning this research what has been done, so that certain things help to in that work. So here are like it's I think it might be the pedagogical training for teachers. So these elements can be, the language has to be very good. It can't be the teacher's normal or the written language. Very good instructions, timetables, steps, numbers, good titles, goals, benefits, situations, learning situations, working situations, and I wouldn't talk about facilitating because facilitating is only one part of the guidance. I would say also guidance, and that would be about feedback, summaries, feed forward, steering up, and then the pedagogical ideas and so on. But language is one of the key things that you made very interesting, and the visualization of the thing, that one picture and you know where to look at. So those are my elements.
I am like a learning geek, so I one of the biggest thing is to go back to the basics, like what does learning theory say, and start from there and keep that in mind when you're designing your content and you're choosing your methods, and also like the types of interaction. So use collaborative learning somewhere in the learning process with a pedagogical objective, and then make sure that you have the necessary tools technically and psychologically as well, that you know what you're doing, and that you can exert, like not exert, but you can in a way like in that space do what you are intending to do, and then provide very clear cues and instruction for the participants. Where are they supposed to come in, and be very specific and narrow, especially in the beginning when you're trying to generate the first exchanges. It's easier to answer to very short questions and narrow questions. And I think like what we're trying to do at Aalto is connect these two to build a community of practice through which we learn pedagogics, where we can get feedback from each other as well. We can share the feedback we got from learners, and also build the standards and best practices in terms of visuals, in terms of structure, in terms of using the different tools we have. And one like floating thing that in a way is like, if you're gonna build like the collaboration, it needs to be inbuilt in the cost, because very often it means that the instructor needs to be there in one way or another, and sometimes they're just not for that. They are paid just to deliver the content. So if you don't have the budget, then don't expect to have that sort of interaction facilitated there.
Okay. I went into something very practical as well, and I think I'm repeating a little bit what everybody else has already said. I'd say I would start by defining and as well as sort of creating the structure such that it's actually engaging from the start. So I went to the visual thing as well. So visualize learning process. I'm not sure if this goes in the right place, and also introduce it. So that's, I believe in pictures, and when you create a certain picture that, you know, this is the flow, or this is what we are, you know, going to be attempting to go through, and also then define, because it might be something struck me. I don't know if it was there or here. That is social learning process less valuable than traditional, learn and then assess and then move forward. So defining the way social learning is present and what's the value of it? Why is it here? What can people start expecting to learn and experience? Because then, of course, you kind of enforce that to be recognized, and they might find that very engaging. To put into very beginning, create a demo exercise. Let's do a little exercise here. Let's do something that everybody will react or engage once, and then everybody gets a medal straight after that, a big trophy. Well done, we're all here. So it's already then, I like what you put, communities built into the structure. So how can we create a community? Let's make us succeed with something, and we are us. We actually kind of become us. Then I actually did more into building stages, sort of how to have checks, how we're doing. Social emotional checks. Can we have little, hey, we're now gone through 30% or we are down halfway. Let's have thumbs up or thumbs down, or how can we again get something easy that everybody can be part of it? And that could be almost like, reflecting that, hey, we've done this, we know how to do this. And then create the bills in kind of clear stages and times that are meant for the social learning. So again, defining, recognizing, and etc. But then simply pedagogical and motivational training for the instructors. Yeah. So lead by, with the example. You are the hero for the group, and then the other heroes can start, living in with positive loops. So that was mine.
Do so that let's let the online participants work within their group, and let us just focus on your post-its now. So now when you take another look at the post-its, try to think which ones best respond to the one single problem you just set, and then give your votes. Which ones are the best solutions to that particular problem?
We've got like very practical answers, and then those like meta answers.
Yeah, when we go deeper, I think it's more that there are not people are not competent to understand this. I think that's the most severe problem. When I work in a totally different place like you, so I don't see that from that point of view. But now I start understanding that I guess that's the main problem. It's real problem. But the people are not.
That's why they hired me where I work.
Because
they just don't know how to use.
Yeah, I mean that is a major problem to be able to do it. I guess a lack of the people who could do it.
Yeah, like university.
Not that we wouldn't know what effects there.
But it's like the what is peruskoulu? Those teachers pedagogical training, but then when you teach at university, you don't have to have any pedagogical training.
Online. Where like they're trying to like recreate the classroom experience, but it doesn't transfer, so they don't do anything. It's just like, here's my PowerPoint. Read it.
Okay. Now just go ahead and give your vote. So you've identified the problem, and you actually already also identified the one single sub problem related to that. A little bit more wider problem. So it seems like it is about the trainers building the course.
I definitely would make a heart, straight away. And also I think this is a little bit of a training, to actually understand the psychologies behind it all. So again, empowering the teachers, empowering the trainers with the new tools, because they know usually they are the pedagogical experts by training, but this is a new layer. This is a new extension to their existing skills. So this is like empowering them to really go for it and be fearless when they're doing it. So I'm going to give this in that context. I like this because I think it's crucial, really, how to do this.
I think it's also like not just the training, but actually like on the job, like how do you apply it? and having this continuous, because it's not like you are gonna learn it in a week or a day or however. You have to like try to find all the different angles of this things that you already kind of know from teaching, but how do they transfer and then gain this understanding.
Based on your discussion, it sounds like you want to offer continuous support for the teachers building the courses.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it, like it
Correctly.
can't come from one person. That's why I was saying that it needs to be a sort of group where people exchange these ideas and feedback each other, and they learn from each other, also from other examples. Like this is how I did this, and it's like, oh, I didn't think about
Like
it. And
social learning
the
for
others.
them.
yeah,
Yes.
social
Agree,
learning,
absolutely.
and then from them experiencing it. I am a great believer in do it, and then you will know how to do it. You know.
In this case, if this was the kind of the solution, this like a community of educators or to support each other in course creation, how would it work? What would it look like?
They would
How
have
would
to
it
have the
happen?
motivation first.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they wouldn't come. I believe in models. I know when somebody has done something well and you look at it, then you can learn from that. But if you start from the white paper, you don't do anything.
There is actually like I wouldn't call it a formula, but there is a book, Building Communities of Practice, that is very useful in teaching you how to structure it and what to expect from in the beginning, 1 year in, 2 years in. It's very different dynamics because it's part of art of hosting. I don't know if you're familiar, like you build it so you are the host and you have to be very involved in the beginning, but then slowly taken over by other people that become the core of the community. So it's a very long process, but I think that if you have the time and the resources, that's the best way. If not, you try to create an online space for that, which I have done as like a result of other trainings that I've had for people with similar background. I created like a Facebook group or a Yammer group if it was internal, and but still like it is hard to engage them there as well. But some people stay active and they will always, if someone asks a question like how can I do this, I have no idea, and then people reply, and it's very
Actually, I have a question about like the term that you have there is training, and now you're talking about communities. I'm thinking about like these are kind of different solutions to the same problem, but kind of hardcore ways, and take very much effort. I'm just thinking like what would be the lightest way of accomplishing this? To what extent do you think that this kind of problem could be solved with like sharing templates, scripts, ideas,
like first step.
tips, best practices, like try this in practice.
Yes.
Because but just the initial idea that I got from pedagogical training was that another degree or something. And what is the level of help that they need?
A point from where to start.
And then also a very short online course where they do the same thing. That because I think there's always the lack of time. People say, well, I would, but I don't have any time. In Finland, everybody says, I don't have any time. Yeah, but when you say that this is the easy way to do it, so I don't, the best practices, but people don't share them. That's a problem. They are always hidden behind some.
And then there might be best practices, but some people just always don't care. They do their
But
own way.
almost online platforms are closed, so you don't see the best. You don't not best, but even good practices. So that's a problem.
I actually saw something on the screen earlier on, and sort of relating to that one. Somebody mentioned there champions, sort of, and I did not read all of it, but thinking in terms of there are always those teachers who are ready to jump into it and kind of get into the deep end, and could those be the ones who kind of can start, lead, and kind of say like, hey, contact me, or I have created this, or we have this short online learning course, and I'm going to be there as the champion leader, because it's not really about necessarily training, but kind of leading by example there. Whether that might be more social experience, not so much like I'm teaching you, but it's more like, hey, I'm here, I'm leading, but we are all going to do this together. So that's more like communal social learning
Yeah,
experience.
it's
So.
again about providing that space and the cue. Like someone has to take responsibility for collecting, so
Yes.
it's maybe easier to contribute something, and also like for different groups, it's easier maybe to give it in writing or give it in a half an hour Skype call because they're there, they dedicated a half an hour, so they're gonna say ideas on the spot. So kind of like figuring out what your audience is and then trying to also engage them to collect all of these and generate motivation, because I think when people start seeing that they getting valuable things, then they are starting to share as well and they become more interested in.
Okay, now it seems that you're talking about the same kind of solution, that is providing information and training to trainers who are producing the courses, but actually your solutions were modules, community, this one champion or leader who's kind of managing this.
I want to mention this visualization too.
Yeah, sure. Short online course and online kind of space while it goes with the community. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's just we hadn't mentioned like the more practical stuff. Yeah. But I think it's if it's an online course, you have to visualize. Even if it's not an online course, you have to visualize the process so that the learner knows that okay, this is a journey I'm going to take, because it's just so much easier to like orientate and know what's coming next.
Okay. And now I see that one solution is there's the training, and then it seems like, well, there's the standards, but that one goes under the training.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the visualizing the learning. Now, which one would you want to still continue working on with?
If you were to answer the question, how does it work?
This problem.
Your solution.
So basically, either providing the training and the knowledge.
How does it work? Or then how would you visualize the learning process? How do you help the instructors to visualize the learning process?
Some part of the different practices.
That could be one of the best practices.
Yeah, it could.
Underneath. So basically, then it comes down to the question: how would you deliver knowledge about the structure? What would be the method? Is it the module? Is it the short course?
I think some examples are very useful for them to see some templates with some like things already filled in, an example that they can follow in the beginning.
Yeah. And then it depends also on the size of the organization. Like how the university, you just can't have individual training for everyone. But then only the most motivated ones go to the online resources. Yeah. But then if it's a smaller teaching community, it's easier to share things informally. So which size of organization are we discussing?
Yeah, but any organization, it's like making a manual, A4, not more, so that you can see it one page and you do it according to that. You learn a lot. But if you have many pages, you don't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, that's why it has to be like also visual and say, here are the goals, here is the title, here it is, do this, and these way are they are the psychological ways how to get engaged and what should be there.
One other way that we're planning to do this competence development in Aalto is to kind of like trickle it down, like have these ambassadors, which are the program directors, and them to share what they think is relevant from the best practices with their team and what is appropriate for their types of courses, because not everyone, but courses are quite different and programs are quite different. So kind of like having their own making their own decision what is the most relevant, and then having this smaller best standards in their own team. Because I think if you don't contribute in creating something, it is you don't understand exactly how that can be applied, and you don't use it. I think like you're not motivated.
The problem is that they're very often content-based and they don't have any activities. And they know how to produce content, but they don't know how to make it active and engaging.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's where it's needed the help. But it shouldn't be only this transfer of knowledge, but also perhaps knowledge sharing. And so I think there they need instructions how to do it. It's not only discussing how do we have to do because they don't know how to do it.
I
It's
meant
more
like not just best practices, but in terms of like tools specific, but also like how do you design basically? What are the things you have to keep in mind? How do you build a learning block? What should you have in a learning block? And so these sort of things. I think like we're trying to, but I don't know how it will work out because it's starting in May. So I hope the ideas will be fruitful.
Right, these are good, and the next step would be to think about. I think that you have been talking the most about creating some sort of modules or templates. The instructors could use and just kind of replace or add what's needed on the template. And the next step would be to think, how does that template actually work? What do you do? Is it on paper and then you still need to design? We need to go into specifics about that, and that's something we are then interested in actually doing in Clanet. Some templates we do have already, and I think Hanne, you're also producing, or you have some sort of a template that you use yourself as well, and so forth. So probably it is to encourage all the organizations to create their own template as well, to help out with building in the pedagogically solid course flow.
I wouldn't call them templates, I would call them thinking tools to help to think through the process.
Exactly. Like,
because that is, template is fixed, but the thinking tools are open.
I think like for example, there are a lot of questions about how do you design like a course, because people tend to, okay, the lecturer gave me this information, I will just put it page 1, page 2, page 3, and I always am like the champion of creating documentation, like from the stage where you're planning, like what the structure could be, what are your learning goals, and having for each stage of, you know, the creation of your course, having another document, even though sometimes it's superfluous, but that it's clear enough when anyone comes afterwards, they see like the stages that you went through, and it also provides the structure for you not to forget. It's also sort of like checklist, but at the same time it is something that you will be able to use later as well, to show what, because maybe the platform crashes and you don't have the content anymore and you can't find that PowerPoint or whatever, so where do you have the course?
Good. Excellent. Teemu, do you want to share the solutions from online participants?
Yes.
What did you come up with?
The topics that we picked up for like deliveries that we have after discussing, where one option would be to show your participation in different ways instead of just commenting. So posting a YouTube video or a link to a blog or something should be felt as engaging also, because some people feel that they don't want to discuss with their own voice but instead want to use some others. And second solution would be leaderboards to provide points for participation and then reduce points for inactivity. So kind of when we think back on the picture with the carrots and the donkey, so this would be more in terms of like pushing people to engage, so that you would be awarded for having engagement. The problem that we started to solve was the disparity between some people being silent and some people being more active. And the third one that we elaborated the most would be that to provide some kind of a temperature for the class, so that the teacher would get an idea if something's going cold in the classroom. So you would have tasks online which would measure the engagement, and after you can see that there's some problems, people aren't actually doing what they are, then an intervention can be done. The champions were also mentioned here in the solution, so that when you kind of see that the discussion is dying out, you would be able to do something as a teacher to fix the situation, or assign some kind of like different assessments to make sure that they are actually participating online.
Good. You came up with actually quite good and concrete solutions that are give an idea how something would work. And as I said, we will put all of this together, all the problems you identified related to social interaction and encouraging interaction online, and then also all the solutions and what were the kind of like the top solutions you came up with, and we'll send short newsletter or briefing about what we did today. Topi, do you want to close up?
Yeah, I don't know how to. So many things flying around. I think even like starting from the problem setting phase, there's things to consider about how to design the course, how to facilitate, what kind of language to use, structure, not to forget about the technical issues that the learners might have, and then kind of the core question of when and whether even to use methods including social learning. If you can you can make a thought experiment that if this task can be done alone, don't use any social aspects, because there needs to be some room for creativity, some room for people to bring in their ideas. If it's a closed task with one single answer, it's usually better to be done alone. The main question that I'm pondering and that I hope to write about in the near future is to what extent this online facilitation or designing social online learning is a skill set, a new skill set, and to what extent you can leverage the skills that you already have from a classroom setting. I mean, if you're a primary school teacher or anyone with a pedagogical background, to what extent the digital or online element brings nuances or new things to that mix. I think that like usually in this kinds of things, the problem that you end up deciding is that actually in this double diamond is the decisive factor about the quality of the solutions, and not to go into too deep into the types of solutions. I think you covered a lot of ground and different aspects. But all in all, even if there are multiple things to consider and multiple challenges to look forward, I do encourage people to try and start small, try experimenting. Even if you have an online course with just individual assignments, put in a social one there for a change, just to change the rhythm. Start with something small that you are comfortable yourself with, and build from there. So it's easy. I think that in many of our workshops, the participants are relieved when they realize that they don't have to design everything new. They can use all the things that they already have and just add to the mix some social aspects, and then kind of iterate from there. So do one instance with the ones that you're comfortable with at the moment, and then kind of expand from there and learn from what other people are doing. Thanks for participating.
Thanks for organizing.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for being here, and thank you online participants as well. It seems like a bunch of you have stayed online throughout the event, so thanks very much. A few things for the participants present here right before you go, but all in all, we'll announce you about the next event very soon, hopefully already this week.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks.
you. Yes, got you and your team. Yes, got you.
Can we get